Welcome to another exciting episode of Ancient Anecdotes powered by Listen Cub. This is your host Ramanathan Iyer.
And this is Anantambal TS.
And this is Bharat Krishnan.
And this is Lalita Ramanathan. Appa, I am so excited to introduce Bharat uncle.
So am I. Bharat is a dear friend. We go back a long time. Professionally, he works for a tech company in Bangalore in the capacity of a product manager. Personally, we have volunteered for so many workshops inspiring the youth of India to meditate. He is an avid sportsman and is mostly found outdoors with his rackets or cricket bats. He loves to research cars. He has a lovely voice and is keenly learning Indian classical music. He has a heartwarming inclination to serve the society, and we are thrilled to have him today on the show. Papa, why are you eating junk again?
Huh? Oh no.
Papa, stop. You're literally gobbling faster after looking at me.
Appa, just one more minute. I'm almost there.
Papa, no, not the entire bag of chips. Oh God.
Appa, but these are protein bars. They are good for health, isn't it? I'm eating healthy. Protein bars will give me more nutrition, and baked chips aren't fried.
Healthy, huh? Let's see about that. Come, bring that wrapper to me. Read the ingredients on this one. Let me show you what's wrong with these so-called healthy snacks. What do you see in the first line?
Ingredients. Protein blend, soy protein isolate, malty oil.
Maltitol. That's a sugar substitute. So whenever somebody says sugar-free, if you turn and look at the ingredients, this is what you will see. It tastes sweet, but it really messes up with your gut bacteria, causes digestive issues and everything. Keep reading.
Glycerin, butylated hydroxytoluene.
BHT, hydroxytoluene. It is a preservative, not exactly health food. And this, what about this one? Read this.
Palm oil.
Correct. Good job. Palmolin. You know, that's a very, very cheap, not so great fat, which every single food manufacturer who's not following standard use to make food tastes better.
Appa, there's also sugar loose. That's like losing sugar. That's a good thing, isn't it?
Sucralose. Unfortunately, that's an artificial sweetener as well. It can also harm your digestive system. And BHT is a preservative that can cause problems in your livers and kidney. And this palmolin is a cheap oil that's not good for your heart also.
Oh, I see. Not good things. What about chips?
The chips are bad as well. They are high in sodium. They contain unhealthy fats. They can clog your arteries.
Appa, what are arteries?
Arteries. You know the blood vessels that we have? The blood doesn't just flow from one place to another place on its own, no? They all pass through small tubes called arteries and veins. Anything that comes to the heart, they are called veins. Anything that is leaving the heart, they are called arteries. So if in case you eat food that is rich in palmolin oil, what happens is the palmolin goes and gets accumulated in the inner linings of these arteries. So that puts a lot of pressure on the heart to pump blood.
But it says here they are baked, not fried.
Papa, I'm sorry to bring all the bad news to you today. But baking does not magically make unhealthy ingredients healthy. Now read this point to this one.
Monosodium glutamate?
Yeah, monosodium glutamate, MSG. It is a flavor enhancer. that, it takes a week for the body to get MSG out of your system. Most people are sensitive to this as well.
But I have done my sadhana, Pa. Won't that protect me?
I understand, Chellakutti, but doing sadhana is like taking a bath for your mind and spirit. Eating junk food right after is like voluntarily getting dirty again. Plus, that specific combination can be a recipe for disaster.
Oh, but Appa, I had a bad day at school and I just wanted to divert myself. Elizabeth Montgomery's pitching nose in a bag of chips and some sweet protein bars seemed like the right choice.
That specific combination is also a recipe for disaster. Wanting to eat something like this itself indicates lowered awareness. Cravings whenever we have, that itself indicates lowered awareness. Since we already know these are bad for our health, we flout this rule and continue to watch something and then eating. Okay, watching something while eating numbs our awareness further, and now we have no control over the quantity we eat as well.
Appa, why does the craving come?
The craving is nothing wrong. It's just that our gut bacteria are out of balance. We have some good gut bacteria and some bad gut bacteria. So when the bad bacteria are active, they send signals to our brain, making us crave unhealthy foods. What are you thinking about?
How come the bad bacteria are active after I do my spiritual practice?
Let's see. See, your body is like the zoo we went to in Chennai. There are deers, as well as there are crocodiles and tigers. The zookeepers give food to all of these animals, isn't it? Spiritual practices nourish the good bacteria, and so they are content and silent. But your stomach has bad bacteria as well. What about them? It's like, when I don't give you any food for the entire day, what do?
I scream and ask for food.
Correct, exactly. That is craving. Craving indicates that the bad bacteria are starved and are dying. Giving in to the craving would make them active again. The ideal way for good gut flora is to make the good bacteria grow more and make the bad bacteria slowly die out.
Oh God, what's the alternative, Pa? How do we do this?
See, eating probiotics to populate the good bacteria and prebiotics to feed the good bacteria would help. Food like yogurt, idli and dosa, made from steaming fermented batter. Even yesterday's rice soaked in water overnight and fermented vegetables, they're all probiotics. Now, food like tapioca, sweet potatoes, raw bananas and onions and stuff with lots of fibers are prebiotics.
Pa, but you said sweet is bad. How come sweet potatoes are good?
Good question. Say I have to make you spell something, okay? And I give you two countries. One country is Nepal and the other is Czechoslovakia. Which one can you spell faster?
Nepal. Nepal, of course.
Correct. So eating protein bars is like spelling Nepal for your stomach. They will become sugars very fast. When you eat sweet potatoes, no, it is like a long word that can't be spelled immediately. Sweet potatoes can't become sugar immediately since they are complex sugars. So they will be intact when they reach the gut from the stomach. They will become simpler sugars by the time they reach the intestine, and then the good bacteria will gobble them up and become healthy. Now the sugars that come from sweet potatoes, no, they cannot be eaten by the bad bacteria.
Oh, so interesting. But Appa, how will I remember this the next time around?
Well, I'll tell you the story of Nrupatungavarman Pallavan. The story starts when Nrupatunga defeats the Pandyan king, Srimara Srivallabha, in the battle of Arisil and Tellare. And the story is legendary because Nrupatunga becomes the king of the Pallavas on Monday and retires from power on Wednesday.
Huh? What? King for only 2 days? Why, Pa?
Let us see why. Nrupatungavarman was deeply impacted by the fact that war and people dying is the price a king has to pay for peace to prevail He was not ready to accept such a dire opposite in his life. So, Nripatungavarman relinquished his throne to his half-brother Kampavarman and his nephew Aparajita. Granddad used to say that the fate of the great king remains a mystery. But there is a great unheard story that recounts him becoming a humble blacksmith in the great Pallava port at Virampatnam. On the one hand, King Srimara of the Pandya dynasty returned to his capital city, Madurai, seeking refuge in the care of his son, Varaguna Pandyan II. The recent defeat at the hands of the young Nripatunga cast a shadow over Srimara's thoughts, forcing him to confront the futility of his aggressively military strategies. He had believed that the relentless attacks on the Pallavas would be the key to undermining their stoic empire. However, the audacious guerrilla tactics employed by Nripatunga had effectively dismantled Srimara's confidence, shaking the very foundations of his long-held ambition to conquer Kanchi and Tanjai. What once felt like a towering aspiration now seemed trivial in the light of Nripatunga's magnanimity in sparing his life. Srimara yearned for spiritual guidance. Yet the insatiable thirst for the Pandyan expansion remained unquenched. Thus, he entrusted his son Varaguna Pandyan with the monumental responsibility of extending the kingdom's reach. Varaguna Varman wasted no time in asserting his dominance. He swiftly led two successful campaigns against Kodumbalur and Viralimalai, dismantling the Pallava reign in those regions. After taking down the Pallava lion flag, standing triumphantly on the southern turret of the Viralimalai fort, he contemplated his next move, a march towards Kanchi and then to Tanjai, present-day Tanjavur. Little did he know that Nripatunga had already embarked on a journey of his own, reaching the expansive Pallava dockyard at Virampatnam. Virampatnam, a coastal town renowned for the construction of massive battle and trading galleons, seemed to offer a much-needed respite from the ceaseless conflict in the plains. It was as though the towering mountains of Tiruvannamalai had instilled in Nripatunga a weariness for battle, urging him towards the solace of the sea. The town of Virampatnam, with its salty breeze and comforting anonymity, provided a sanctuary for Nripatunga. The reigning kings rarely visited Virampatnam. Instead, feudal lords, obligated to pay maritime taxes and deliver updates on sea trade, made periodic journeys to Kanchi. Virampatnam was also a melting pot of mercenaries and wanderers seeking refuge from across the globe. They all used to come to India and they used to dock their ships at Virampatnam. This port offered a strategic distance away from the watchful eyes of the three kingdoms controlling Korkai, the Pandya port, Pumpuhar, the Chora port, and Kulachal, the Chera naval base. While these ports operated under strict military oversight, Virampatnam provided a haven for clandestine activities because no king came there. The lack of structured governance meant that the laborers toiling away in its shipyards, responsible for crafting weapons and the vessels for the three kingdoms, were susceptible to exploitation. One might wonder what compelled the former king to this bustling port. Was it a sense of kingly duty to restore order? But wait, Nripatunga was no longer a king and he had relinquished his crown. What could be his motive for this unexpected journey? Why did Nripatunga go there?
Yeah, Pa. Why? But more than anything, Pa, the way I am seeing it, I am also eager to know how this story is related to those horrible sounding long, tough words like palmolin, maltitol, monosodium glutamate, and BHT. Don't forget BHT.
Why indeed? For that, I'm afraid we'll have to rewind the wheels of time a little while more before Nripatunga went to Virampatnam. After the war, even before meeting up with his father Nandivarman Pallava III, Nripatunga first goes to the great Kailashanatha temple in Kanchi.
To worship Shivan?
No. The main deity in this grand temple is of course Shiva in the form of Kailasanathar. Yet, Nripatunga lacked the deep attachment to Lord Shiva that his father cherished. He had always been agnostic about any divine protection, believing instead in his mother's love. The universe had deprived him of her touch at a tender age when he was just 8 years old. Concerned about his son, Nandivarman aimed to never give his son a semblance of being raised as a motherless child. He did not remarry then, leaving Nripatunga with a sense of exclusive attention. But Nripatunga grew up ultimately to young adult years and felt he could never get enough of his mother's love and care as a child. As a recourse, ever since he realized of his mother's early demise, Nripatunga developed a longing to visit the Kailasanatha temple and pray to Kamakshi Amma there. This almost became a ritual. A unique calling resonated within him. Whenever he was within the settling embrace of those serene temple walls, Nripatunga could hear the Divine Mother's voice guiding him throughout his life. Nripatunga never remembered his mother's voice, but this surreal voice that only Nripatunga could hear here in the Kamakshi Amman temple gave him a settling feeling as if his mother was after all with him, at his beck and call. While kings and lords would come to the temple and donate silk saris to be draped on the Divine Mother's idol, Nripatunga would secretly pay money from his own allowance to buy some of these saris regularly from the temple priest. It would benefit the temple threefold. Once when the benefactor donated the sari, once when he is again paying to take the sari away from the temple, and once because Nripatunga would cuddle up innocently with these sari, experiencing his mother's embrace. Have you ever felt your mother's presence also has a fragrance? Something that permeates her clothes, the vessels that she has used, will even seem to resonate her voice. Nripatunga was suddenly elated that he didn't lose his mother's sanidhyam after all.
कल्पानोकः पुष्पजाल विलसन्नीलालकां मातृकां कान्तां कञ्जदलेक्षणां कलिमलप्रध्वंसिनीं कालिकां काञ्चीनूपुरहारधामसुभगां काञ्चीपुरीनायिकां कामाक्षीं करिकुम्भसन्निपकुचां वन्दे महेशप्रिया.
Years roll by. The battle of Tellare and Arisil ended and Nripatunga returned home to Kanchi victorious. Nandivarman meanwhile finally married again in the interim and Kampavarman was born to him. In commemoration of this event, Nandivarman builds a golden shrine for a young and cute Balambigai shrine inside the Kailasanatha temple. A shrine where Kamakshi Amma is depicted as Bangaru Balambika, a golden statue whose resplendence was the talk of legends for a really long time. Meanwhile, as Nripatunga's hands were busy during the battles of Tellare and Arisil, his half-brother Kampavarman married and begot Aparajitavarman. After the battle with Srimara, when Nripatunga arrives at Kanchi and prays to Kamakshi Amma, by sheer force of habit, Nripatunga bought a large leaf wrap of kumkumam for performing kumkumarchana to Amma Kamakshi. He tied it around his waistband and picked up his ears, looking for his mother's sweet voice. But alas, Nripatunga suddenly realizes that he can no longer hear his mother's voice. Concerned, he looks around, searching the temple premises like a madman, yearning for his mother's presence. Outside the Bangaru Balambigai shrine, the young golden goddess, Nripatunga suddenly hears the giggle of a young girl. He looks around and sees no one in the vicinity. His skull is throbbing with puzzlement. Nripatunga then suddenly remembers that he was searching for his mother originally and calls out,
Amma! Amma!
Again, he hears the giggle and now hears footsteps and anklets ethereally. He senses the footsteps running away from him and goes around the temple courtyard's circumambulation path. Nripatunga, with tears in his eyes, runs like a maniac, driven by the sound of the footsteps and the occasional sweet giggle of a young girl. In the urgency of his running, a small crack appeared in the leaf wrap unbeknownst to him. He ran around the shrine, not noticing that the leaf had started to tear slightly around the crack as he moved, and the kumkumam had started to trickle from the crack. Finally, outside the grand lion pillars of the temple, Nripatunga collapses to the ground, helplessly crying out,
Amma, why do you make me run and not speak to me like before? Amma, what mistakes have I committed? I have only assisted my father dutifully, as if it were worship. I have contemplated the freedom of my subjects as you have taught me. When it was time to make a choice, I spared Sri Mara's life. Amma, I fail to see any grave error I might have committed. Why do you deny me your audience? Oh mother, who will be my respite if not you?
As Nripatunga stood, exhausted, looking helplessly around the shrine, he now noticed something strange. The kumkumam in his waistband had begun to trickle out unnoticed, leaving behind a trail. The places where the giggles had faded were the places he had stopped. Looking at the kumkumam trail, Nripatunga now realized that these places were not random. Suddenly, Nripatunga's exhaustion gave way to shock as he noticed the spots where the kumkumam had spilled out had formed vertices. At each stopping point, the ground had gathered mounds of the sacred powder, creating distinct vertices everywhere. The pattern was unmistakable. A series of two inverted triangles, and at their outward edges, the outline of the Shri Yantram. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at the intricate design on the temple floor, his hands cold and his breath catching in his throat. The majestic Bangaru Kamakshi shrine now loomed tall right in the middle of this pattern, and as Nripatunga's incredulousness grew, his eyes traveled to the summit of the shrine. Bindu Trikona Vasukona Dashara Yugmam Manvastranāgadala Shodasha Yuktam Vrittatrayam cha dharani sadanatrayam cha Shri Chakra Raja Udita Paradevataya. It is said that the temple premises fell silent. The temple's Stalavriksha grove was a little ahead from where Nripatunga was standing. The grove had a peculiarity. There were a pair of old trees that intertwined with each other. One was a mango tree and the other was a vilva or a marmalade tree.
Appa, the mango tree is Kamakshi Amma's tree and the vilva is a Shiva tree, isn't it? They were intertwined in the temple, is it?
Yes, Papa, well observed. In the evening sky, the sun had long dived into the horizon. The pair of trees suddenly glowed with a divine aura, and an ethereal voice spoke from within the grove.
Nripatunga?
Nripatunga turned away from the gopuram and gazed into the whimsical light in the grove. The light seemed to calm him down immediately. A sense of relief spread upon his face, and he took 2 steps toward the grove. But the voice rang out,
Don't come any closer. Just listen to me.
Nripatunga observed at once that the voice was such a mystery. It was nothing like he had ever heard before. There was a clear hint of shyness in the voice, and yet the words indicated such command. The voice was that of a small youthful girl of about 15 or 16, yet the unique and simultaneous love and authority in her voice was unmistakable.
कम्पातीरचराणां करुणाकोरकितदृष्टिपातानां केळीवनं मनो मे केषाञ्चिद्भवतु चिद्विलासानाम् आम्रतरुमूलवसतेः आदिमपुरुषस्य नयनपीयूषम् आरब्धयौवनोत्सवम् आम्नाय रहस्यमन्तरवलम्बे
Who are you, mother? Your voice doesn't sound like my mother Kamakshi Amma's voice at all.
I am Kamakshi, you silly boy. I'm just younger, much younger.
Nripatunga was puzzled.
Amma, how is this possible? All the stories I have heard show how ageless and timeless you are. And yet, your voice, you have become younger. How is this possible?
Well, you have bathed in the Tenpennai river, haven't you? The river has been flowing for centuries, isn't it? And yet, every drop of the water is new, and once it flows by you, it is gone. You can never get it back. And now, another new and pure drop of water takes its place. Time and life is like that. Every moment is fresh, and yet we know that the life on the planet is age old. So am I, dear Nripatunga. I am ageless and at the same time as old as these mountains and rocks. But the real question is, why does my age seem lesser now? Isn't that what you ask?
Yes, mother, this is what I meant.
Well, when you were younger and you missed your mother and needed her love, I became of your mother's age for you. Then you waged that war with the Pandya Shrimara. You spared his life, and now you are older and possess the maturity to care for others. You have no more asks from life. So now I have become your responsibility. I have become your daughter. Now you have to care for me.
My life has become hallowed, O mother. What punya have I done to deserve such magnanimity? But you, whose breath makes the earth revolve around the sun, you, whose heartbeat animates every atom in the universe, you who have everything, and you who are the richness in opulent and bravery in the valorous, how shall I serve you, mother? What is the plan you have for me for the remainder of my life? What should I do?
Come now, I've already told you this. When you left to Arisil and Tellaru, and before, what have I always told you?
That serving our people is verily serving you.
That's right, Nripatunga. Heed my words. Our people are suffering. You must go to their aid.
Where, O mother, where do they suffer? As far as I know, peace prevails across the Pallava kingdom, as far as the eye can see. Where do you see suffering people?
As far as whose eyes can see, Nripatunga?
Said Amma with a wry chuckle. And then Her voice became grave.
You must travel south. There is a Chora city that Dharmapala Choran has built on the banks of the Manimuttaru river called Vilvanallur, the abode of the Vilva trees. Ride to Vilvanallur at once and perform a month of temple service there to my Lord Kameshwaran, and soon you shall find out what I can feel now. Soon you shall see what ails our lands.
Kamakshi, she whose eyes magnetically enraptures the whole universe, asking Nrupatunga to travel to the feet of Kameshwara, he who is the reason for that very magnetism. What poetry! Well, history knows how the king Nrupatungavarman travelled first to the fort of Kanchi and gives up his kingdom. Unbeknownst to the world, in the wee hours of the morning, the king takes his horse and rides south to Vilvanallur. He arrives at the great Kameshwarar temple. As usual, he would have completely ignored the great Shiva temple in the center and gone to Kokilambigai shrine to meet his mother. But now he remembers the reason he is here in the first place. And so he proceeds to the large Kameshwara temple instead. He meets with the head priest there, Sabapati Swamigal, who was the pontiff. Sabapatiyar had served with Nrupatunga's father Nandivarman in Kanchi. So he recognized the young prince immediately. Nandivarman and Sabapatiyar went to the same Gurukulam and had learnt the 8 Vidyas together. The old king Nandivarman treated Sabapatiyar like his own brother, and so Sabapatiyar treated Nrupatunga like his nephew. But the prince was still the lord of the lands. Remembering protocol, the priest exclaimed, "My lord, no one told me of your arrival. Let me arrange the Purna Kumbham for you. Jagadisha! Jagadisha! Which pond has this apprentice of mine gone and submerged himself into?" Nrupatunga silenced him and said,
Sabapati Mama, I have not come here as Koparakesari. I am just here as your nephew. I would like to serve here in the temple for a mandalam. Please let my identity be a secret. It will help me do my seva without hindrance. I am going to call myself Kokilan so that no one recognizes even my name.
Does Sabapatiyar listen to Nrupatunga? Is his secret identity retained?
What happens in Vilvanallur?
What dramatic events change Nrupatunga's life forever? Where will you find these answers and more?
Hear it first
On Ancient Anecdotes.
on your favorite podcast streaming providers.
Tune in for a brand new episode.